Now, continuing to stay inward, I'll read slowly these 5 verses from chapter 13, The Field of Battle. This is from the Bhagavad Gita, as explained by Paramahansa Yogananda ji and written by Swamiji. Sri Krishna says over here, the true insight bestowed by wisdom is revealed in the following qualities: humility, unpretentiousness, harmlessness, forgiveness, integrity, service to the Guru, purity of mind and body, steadfastness, self-control, indifference to sense objects, lack of emphasis on one's own self, perception of the sufferings and evils inherent in birth, illness, old age, and death, non-attachment, non-identification of the ego with one's own children, wife, and home, and with everything that these entail, equal acceptance of both fortune and misfortune, unswerving devotion to an identity with me, with a capital M, which is Krishna consciousness, Christ consciousness, oneness with God. Unswerving devotion to an identity with me through yoga practice, love of solitude, disinclination for worldly society, perseverance in the pursuit of self-knowledge, aspiration toward true wisdom, which is the goal of all learning. Qualities that oppose these virtues are the signs of ignorance. Om. Shanti. Shanti, Shanti. So, welcome once again, friends. And, sometimes in this life, Sri Krishna has incarnated. Reincarnation applies when, oh, Xenia, this is a nice manifestation. I saw Xenia online, and then she was not online. So I'm like, maybe it's technology, maybe it's internet. But then, the mind being what it is, I was like, and again, I love you all who are online, love you dearly. But, I was like, but why don't people make the extra effort to come in person? And then I thought, but maybe, friends, family, commitment stop. And then I thought, what would I do if I was in that situation? And I have to share, I said, I would fight with those situations. Today's topic is the battle. Life is a battlefield. And I would fight with people. And I'll tell you, I've taken some with Prisha, Bhavani. I took Nayaswami vows few months ago. And 2010 it was, we took Brahmacharya vows. And that was in Delhi, Gurgaon. And the night before that, interestingly, my parents were in Delhi. And they had come to see me. And it was a few years after I had joined the path. And maybe it's a little bit covering non-attachment, identification with the body, non-attachment. There's wife and other things written, but maybe in my case it would be parents. My father asked Swamiji once, he said, Sir, Aditya respects you a lot. He will do what you say. And my father is a wonderful person. Swami said that himself. He said, they are beautiful people. But he was buttering Swami so that he could get what he wanted out. So this is how you start. Oh, Swamiji, Aditya loves you very much and he respects you very much. He would do anything that you say. And Swami said, what is he not doing? And he said, sir, he's not marrying. And, that was the agenda. So, if you tell him he respects you, he'll get married. Swami couldn't be buttered. It's like that story of the demon. Before you throw the powder, the demon gets into the powder. Before you ask a question, the saint is in the question. He's inside it. So he says, Swami Aditya is not getting married. Without a breath, Swami said, but he's married. He's married to God. And it was such a sweet answer given with such honesty, straightforwardness, that my dad started laughing. And he said, well, yeah, let's talk about something else. And I was like, that's the power of, I could have said the same thing. I was saying the same thing repeatedly. It didn't have that effect. Swami said it once, period. And that is why, we want to stay close. So anyway, I was thinking that I would fight with my, this was the story I was saying. So before that morning of Brahmacharya vows, the day I was staying with my parents, they said, stay with us, tomorrow we'll come to your ashram, little give and take. So I was like, yeah, sure. And so I stayed with them, and that night, something overcame. Emotions, when they start, hard to stop them. And my mom, again, very sweet lady, very sweet. And she just saying, oh, we are your parents and stay with us, come back, the home is empty without you. And I was like, oh God, it's night time, I'm in this hotel room with them, how do I escape, what do I do? And I was like, I am here with you, I will always be there with you, but I am not just yours. We belong to God, we must go back home, that's the home. And they're like, you've gone totally crazy. And, they're like, so anyway. So this continued for a long time. And I, when somebody's really emotional and really crying their heart out for hours, I started feeling bad. I said, I must be the worst son. Look at this. What am I giving my parents? Tears and so many things. You fill in the blank. So I was feeling bad about all this, but I wouldn't change. Fortunately, I wouldn't give in. So the morning came and they said, well, my dad said, we're going to drop you to the ashram, but beta, we are just not in a frame of mind. We are going to leave. And they left from the door, the gate. And I said, everybody has their life. That night, Swamiji gave us, he gave us the Brahmacharya, the pilgrim, Tyagi, Tyagini vow, Brahmachari vow, Brahmacharini, and Nayaswami vows. And I was with other monks taking the Brahmachari vow. And this was the first time he was doing it in India. It was deep, very sacred. Just to make you feel the gravity of the situation. Many people who had been with Swami for over 40 years, they said, we never felt, because everybody felt a deep power. And people who had seen him for decades, when they said, we never felt, many said at least that, you can't measure these things. Sometimes you could be with Swami and feel nothing. And sometimes, like Swami said, Master could be talking about potholes, and Swami said, I would be weeping in the back of the room because so much bliss was coming from him. So you can't measure these, quantify these things. And I remember one time somebody said, okay, let's go and meditate with Swami. And, when you try to extract something out of a guru, out of a saint, you don't get it. I saw it many times. I could tell you many stories. You know his schedule. You know where he's going to show up. And you show up, but you show up. You don't, the blessings not so much. I could tell you many stories, but in that particular time, Swamiji came and people were like, can we meditate with you? Shall we meditate? And he's like, yes. And he said, and we started to meditate, and he said, I'm sorry, I have to go to the bathroom. And he got up, he went to the bathroom and flushed once, flushed twice, came back. He said, Om. And we started talking. It was a 1 minute meditation. So if you wanted something, he wouldn't give that to you. Like somebody said to Master, I want the red rose, not the white one. He was giving out of a bouquet. And Master said, what I give, you take. That it's, again, the ego is so subtle that I'll take peace out of the saint. I remember I had driven this family to Swami once, and the person, again, it's like hidden agenda in the pockets even. So people reached up and they said, okay, let's talk to Swami. They met him. He blessed them. Very kind, very generous. seeing God, awakening God in everybody. But the moment you think that you get little greedy over there, whew, like somebody said, you come empty-handed, and you unfortunately do go empty-handed. Whereas you could have, Swami said, why pick broken glass, when you're in a minefield of diamonds? He said, get the diamonds. So anyway, there we were, and this person just like very disrespectfully shoved this visiting card into Swami's face, you may say. And he's like, Swami said, what is this? It's a visiting card, sir. Just bless it. And Swami said, but I don't have my glasses. What is this? What does it say? Oh, sir, just bless it. Only your blessings are needed. And he says, sure, but what is it? And I was like, tell him what is it. You put it in his hands. It's the visiting card of my son. He has started a business. Just bless it, sir. And Swami said, okay. You don't get blessings like that. One time, hundreds of people almost were touching Swami's feet at a railway station because he was going somewhere in India. And it was very sweet. It's a sweet gesture. Swami was very moved by that sweetness, that simplicity, that childlike nature, that here's a saint. You don't have to declare your name. You see him, you just fall at his feet. But when they sat up on the train and he was traveling with some monks, and this monk told me that he said, we got on the train and Swami said, sometimes people bow before every tree and stone, and I am not a stone. Which is to say, it's good to bow, but you have to know who you're bowing to. And to bow in a deeper sense is to say, I give my all. And then the blessings are there. But if you just say, oh, you're a saint, here's a visiting card, here's a postcard, bless me, just bless me. Well, just bless you. That's how much you get. So anyway, I went to Swami that evening for my vow, and I was in this turmoil that I'm renouncing, I'm trying to move towards God, but I don't think I've made anybody happy. Look at me. Wherever I go, there are tears. And so I went, and we had to go to the altar and then come up to Swamiji. So I went to the altar, but I said, you're going to touch Swami's feet now in a few moments. So I just bowed at the altar and I said to Master, Master, I don't know what's going on, but may thy will be done, not mine. May thy will be done. And then I came and I touched Swami's feet. Most of this ceremony was in silence. And when he blessed me, he said, Master is very pleased with you. Those are very precious words, as you can imagine. But you have to understand, I had to fight emotionally, spiritually, and Satan comes in these subtle ways. The following day, I'm renouncing, and that very night, something happened to my parents. Like I said, sweet people. So inside of me, sometimes when I see something, I was like, have I put up the greatest fight I can? Or did I by any chance, like Arjuna, I will not fight. They are my uncles and aunts and grandsires and the teacher and my guru and all. No. When Krishna says, they are all coming out of Krishna. They are all, once again somebody asked me, you spend most of your time in Pune. Are you from Pune? I said, well, on one level you can say that because people say if you lived in a place 20 years, you become that. So maybe I'm a Punekar. Me Marathi manus ban gaya hu, I don't know how to say that. Or I'm a Puneite. Ahe, me Marathi manus ahe. But what was I saying? That somebody asked me, you're all the time in Pune. Are you from Pune? I said, no, my parents are in Rajasthan. They're like, but you hardly go home. We always see you here. What about your mom? And I said, what happened to my mom? No, you should go and spend more time. I said, I'll give you her address and her bank details. You take care. If you're so concerned, you take care of my mom. I said, my mom is just fine. But here's the question. I said, what about Divine Mother? I and my mom left the mother a long time ago I am your mother, you are my son. I am your son, you are my mother. Well, who is talking about the real parent who gave birth to the universe? The power to give birth to a physical child, the power to think like we were singing that chant, the power to live. Where do these things come from? They come from God. So when you've suffered enough, in your soul you know this will not work. The sooner I keep the company of God, the happier I will be and the better everything else will work out. And it did work out. Now I have none of those tears. Now my parents are happy. My mom, I went to my sister's place in Urbana-Champaign in Illinois. I didn't tell anybody. There was a picture of Babaji over there. There's a picture of Babaji in my mom's altar. One night I called her and she said, it's Janmashtami, happy Janmashtami. I said, yeah, to you too. I called her the next day because all night we were meditating. And I said, yeah, we meditated all night. That's why I couldn't answer your call. And she said, okay, I was also sitting with Babaji's picture. But she didn't know Babaji is a incarnation of Krishna. She doesn't. She said, I just felt inspired to sit with his picture. So you see, without God, nothing works. Nothing works. It's again reincarnation. You change your body, change your gender, because you have to learn those lessons. Being you're too personal, you're too impersonal, you are intellectual, you're so and so, this, that. It just continues on and on and on till we get it. And once we get it, you have to hold on to it. And like those, look at that last line. Qualities that oppose these virtues are the signs of ignorance. I mean, that's powerful. I said, I want to come back to these 5 verses and develop the signs of wisdom, not of ignorance. So let's quickly just go through some of these, friends, and then I'll share, like I promised, some stories from my travel to the US. So non-attachment. Now, I'll just touch 1 or 2 essential things. Why is non-attachment important? First of all, let's be clear. Non-attachment does not mean like we are not, and let's zoom in and out a little bit. I know, because I want our friends online to see our temple, and this temple is very much in the making, you can see. Non-attachment does not mean you're not taking care of things. But non-attachment means, or you might say, you're attached to the one reality there is, God. Anything outside of Him, here it says wife, home, children, if that becomes your focus, well, the tragedy is that will remain your focus. So it is a limited attachment to something. And it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, I offer the universe to everyone. But man likes to possess. So they like to possess things, and that's it. This is mine. Well, unfortunately, that is how it will be. So it's a limited expression. That is so when you're non-attached, your consciousness goes up, because your energy is not limited by those things, or you're more attached to God, and suddenly you start feeling that. The senses, why should we not be in the indifference to the senses? It's a little bit like we have this beautiful center which is so big, but imagine that I start standing by this window and I grab onto this window and I call this window the entire reality of my life. And if I define this building by this window, the window is giving me a glimpse into what is outside. But is the window the real thing? No. God is inside. He's in the spine. He's in the spiritual eye. When life force comes, it can see, it can taste, smell, touch, feel. And Master said, but what you're seeing in the senses, Master said, bring it inside. That's pranayam. Learn to bring it inside, bring it up. And he says, your joy will be 100-fold. But if you stay in the senses, well, the senses, after a while the window gets dirty, the eyes get cataract, the food is not tasting the same, the body is not moving like that. Swami writes over here, perception of the sufferings and evils inherent. Inherent means they are already inside these things, inherent in birth. illness, old age and death. You're not safe anywhere. It's like somebody said, oh, after die I'll go to heaven. What's the guarantee? And what happens in heaven? You reincarnate from there because you have some desires of this world. So Swami said it doesn't, but people don't like to think that deeply. They're like, oh, it's too much. Well, what is your alternative? And this last week or 10 days, I mean, there were passings, including, I'm sure we all prayed and are still praying for Nalaudeji, the owner of this beautiful center where we are sitting. That is what it is. I don't know, somehow, a few years before the pandemic started, about 2017, 18, I've been just every morning when I wake up, by God's grace, this spontaneous thought comes, my God, so I'm alive. In the pandemic, it became more clear because life and death was the daily discussion. But you wake up, you're like, okay, I am alive. And since you're alive, you might as well do something. But we can't take life for granted. Again, in my travels in the US, and some friends were sharing just yesterday how 4 or 5 people passed away in the last 7-10 days. Don't take these things for granted. Swami used to say, I tell everybody, but nobody listens to me. He says, don't get old. Now, you may say, what kind of a practical advice is that? Or if you have to get old, I don't want to use the word old, I want to say ripe. We have a very good example. What Prisha does not know is I am older than her. Very few people know that. This is my powers of yoga that have... but now fractures are appearing, fault lines are showing. Recently, I was doing dishes in the meditation retreat in California, and somebody who was doing dishes with me and was slightly shorter than me, he said, wow, brother, your mom gave you really good hair. I said, not exactly. There's an island up here, and it has some hair have started to vanish. And he says, well, at least we can't see it. Somebody has to be really tall to see that island. From where I'm looking, your hair is very good. I said, let's keep it that way. One benefit of operating through the senses, you don't see what you don't see. It was Pradnya who once brought it to my notice. Pradnya said, brother, when you're doing online classes, don't do the full yogic breath. I said, why? She said, because when you do the full yogic breath, your island shows up. I was like, yeah, that's true. It's good feedback, but I have to do the technique the way... What is that? Pradnya is there. I can see her. Yeah, she's right there. But I enjoyed it very much. That was a good joke. And that's the kind of joke you want, between brother and sister. So anyway, that was that. Ego. Swami says that's the root cause. I am suffering. Swami says you have to understand whether you are a sinner, whether you are very saintly. He said it's something that is flowing through you. He said the only definition allowed to us is we are children of God. Mistaken, sleeping, awake. That's the only difference between a saint and us. They are awake and they tell us the truth. Oh, don't identify with the body, with this gender, with your sins, Swami used to say, don't say, मैं पापी हूँ. I am a sinner. So I went to Italy one time and I have a wonderful friend over there. His name is Bhima. And Bhima says, Aditya, what do I do? So I was he had invited some of us for a pizza garden party in his house. So we are having pizzas with him and his children come and they're like, Papi. And he talks to them in Italian. And that's how they talk to him. It's not Papa, it's Papi. And he says, Aditya, what do I do? In the satsang, Swami is always saying, never say I am Papi, मैं पापी हूँ. But all 3 of them are always calling me Papi. And I said, well, you'll become a saint. All the quicker. Each time they call you that, don't identify. You can go 3 times faster if you apply that technique. So life is full of these beautiful things. So the ego is beautiful. Swami says you have to move from a limited or unhealthy ego. An ego which is not happy, an ego which is complaining, an ego which sees. Swami says, what is the ego on one level? He says, the fact that I am separate from you. He says, that is, Master actually once called it the crushing weight of the universe. He says, once you become aware of it, it becomes unbearable. That why am I separate from the clouds? And St. Francis used to do this. He says, I will praise you, but give me your freedom. He would tell the birds, I will praise you. I will tell others, but you give me a certain, your music, how you sing to God, and he developed all those positive qualities. So you might say in that one lifetime, because his life was quite a turnaround, he went from somebody who was not interested in God to somebody who became so universally all-rounded as a saint, so loved, that to this day, he's like a little bit like Master. Master called him the patron saint of his work. That you think of any life situation and there's a story that you can pick up from Master's life, Swami's life, St. Francis's life, and you can say, hey, this is how he lived in these situations. Okay, and Swami writes over here about seclusion, and I went through a 4-day seclusion, not so much, but because I was coordinating this program where it was happening. But others who went through it, some had never gone through a seclusion. And a seclusion is a beautiful thing. First of all, our gadgets were taken away for almost 4 weeks. People said, I don't need to go back. I don't want to go back to my gadgets. And some said, now this is the wise answer. One person said at the closing circle, he said, I am going to check my phone in the morning and in the evening. Not all the time. That's a very important thing to keep in, because if you're always in the senses, unnecessarily it's a habit. But if you're spending time with God, if you're inside, if you're more aware of what's really happening, why are you doing what you're doing, how are you doing it, what are you feeling? If it's not feeling right, don't go there. It's very important. I came out of a seclusion this year. I went to the Himalayas. 7 days, total silence, pretty much silence. I was by myself. And when I came down, I had come 40 minutes before the train had to come. And I was dropped at a station, one station before where I had to go. But they said the train will start from there. It will come here in 5 minutes. Go from here. I said, yeah, all fine. I told the cab guy. Now, because I had to wait 40 minutes, I had to sit down somewhere. So I said, I won't do anything without awareness. So I said, I am going to ask Divine Mother everything in these 40 minutes. And I was already practicing that in the cab. Where should I stop? What should I do? Should I check my phone now? And I checked my phone and there was one important email for the trust. So I replied to that. I was gradually, you might say, coming out of it. And I was sitting in this station in the Himalayas, and I was thinking, there's a beautiful story that had happened in my best friend's life in college. He was in a former life, and now it's a whole story from that village. So I was just reflecting on that wow, it's so beautiful. What do we know? He was here in 1970s, now he's in another body, and I was just marveling at these things. And so I thought, let me go and sit. And there were some students. So anyway, I saw a bench. There were many benches as they are on the railway station. So I went to one particular, so I asked Divine Mother, and it was like, okay, go from here. So I went from here because there was this whole just very chaotic group over there. So I went from here, even though it meant taking my suitcase 2 steps down. I reached the bench, long bench in the sun. 5 people could sit on it. Only one person was sitting over there. So naturally, I said, I wouldn't just sit. I said, where should I sit? And the feeling came, sit right in the middle. So just to play with her, I said, what if I sit there? I'm going to sit there. And she said, don't sit there. I think you should sit here. So I said, I'll sit here. But now I had a reason. Why should I not sit there? Why is she saying here? So I sat in the middle, and then a person came. So one person, I was in the middle, there's another person over there. So another random 4th person came, and he sat between me and on my right hand side. So there was that one seat which I was saying, Mother, I'll sit there. And she said, don't sit there. This is your seat. So I just sat there, started thinking about Master, doing japa. 5 minutes later, one gentleman comes and he sits over there. So I said, okay. And then I thought about that work I had to do for the trust. And in the mountains, I was not getting download speed. So I checked my phone. And when I reached out, this person saw my bangle. So I reached out and I brought the phone and I was checking in, and he says, and we hadn't said hello or anything. He says, "Are you from Ananda?" I said, "Yes." "How do you know?" He said, "I saw your bangle, sir." I said, "Oh yeah, this is an astrological bangle, as you may know now." He said, "Yes, Sri Yukteswarji told Master to wear it, and many disciples in Ananda wear it." I said, "Are you from Ananda?" He said, "Yes, I'm a Kriyaban." Then I said, I took a good look. And by the way, I was not wearing kurta pajama. I was in formals. So I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from the online Sangha." Then he says, "Are you Dr. Aditya?" I said, "I am." He said, "I've seen your videos on death and other things in the pandemic. They helped me very much." I said, "Good." He said, "Sir, it's amazing that we are meeting over here." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Because I am in this." I said, "Do you live here?" He said, "No, I'm visiting here for the first time." I said, "I have come to this city for the first time myself." And he said, "I was praying to the masters this morning that I have a little child. I'm so busy. I'm not able to go to any of the centers. I'm in this remote place of Haryana. And how do I get my Kriya reviewed? How can I do that in person?" And he said, "Here we are." I said, "Yeah, here we are. Let's check your Kriya." But you see, when you're still, when I came out of seclusion, I said, I will not do anything to the best of my capacity without asking Divine Mother. I will not sit without asking her. "Oh, let's sit down." Swami said, you don't sit like, oh. He said, "No, just sit. Be controlled. Be in possession of your awareness." And he says, then you will see that every moment you're guided, as it said in the autobiography, in the details. Sit here. So seclusion, it's a beautiful practice, and I urge you to do that, because we will realize then, it's a little bit like meditation. When we start meditating, we realize, oh my God, all these thoughts are going through my mind. And somebody said, "Oh, meditation has made me restless." No. Meditation has brought your restlessness to your notice. Similarly, seclusion will bring unnecessary messaging and talking is not really essential. Master's most advanced disciples and Master would talk in silence. Swami says that's how he trained them. So silence is totally pregnant with Divine Mother's guidance if we want to listen to it and remove the distractions and the disturbances in the ether, in our heart, in our mind, in our body, in our emotions. And finally, there's that beautiful statement, disinclination for public, what is it? Public gatherings. So not gather. Let me read that, because we are having a public gathering here. Disinclination for worldly society. This is a satsang. Now, disinclination does not mean dislike. Swami explains that. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing to remember. Sometimes as yogis we say, I don't do this, I don't go there. Swami writes, a yogi cannot dislike anything. He said, because if you are disliking it, it's a disturbance in your chitta. And he says a disturbed chitta does not see reality as it is. And you see that many times. People fight over small things. What do you eat? Or, I don't eat garlic and onion. But you talk like garlic and onion. Many times I've seen. And there are sometimes I've met people who are very sweet. And they may say, like somebody asked Swamiji, it was a question answer round, and this person says, he raises his hand, Swami says, yes. And his question is, I eat fish. And Swami says, that's not a question. What's the question? He says, sir, I eat fish. We've always been eating fish. Can I be spiritual? And Swami didn't waste any time. He said, fish or no fish? You can find God if you have devotion. Now, he was not saying eat fish, but he was not saying don't eat fish. He was saying focus on what's important. Like Christ said, it is not what goes inside a man's mouth. It's good to not eat too much garlic and onion, because then you will be jumping in your meditation out of restlessness. It's good not to eat heavily, not to eat heavy meat, because again, those things clog. We can't, it's a little bit like talkativeness. If you're so talkative and restless, you don't hear Divine Mother. But so Master said, if your nerves and the energy channels are clean, purity, as it says in those verses, of body, of mind, pure, what is it? What is that saying? Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. A pure heart sees God in everything. And so there is no dislike over there. Isn't that beautiful? So anyway, I could go on and on. Those are just 5 points I picked out of 20. I invite you to, in this week, make a study. This is from the chapter, The Field of Battle, chapter 13, verse 7 to 11. Okay. So, a few minutes of stories now from the US. But first of all, I like, Divine Mother likes to keep some drama going on in your life. And it's very sweet when some personal things happen, even though Master said, what does it mean to be impersonal? He said, to love somebody impersonally means you are not thinking about yourself. You're not saying, okay, I'm going to, remind me a good name? Abhinav, yes. So Abhinav has always felt like a wonderful dear friend, brother, and I need to improve my memory also. But Abhinav needs to come more often also, so that we can remember each other's name, no? But don't feel bad. I had an assistant, very sweet guy, Suvir, for 2 months. Daily we used to work together. And after 2 months in a satsang, I asked him, I said, I want to tell you a story. I said, what's your name? So he thought the story has begun. So he's like, I said, no, what's your name? I said, what is your name? And he's like, my name? Suvir. He's like, are you for real? I mean, we work 8 hours a day. I said, yeah, Suvir. So it's very sweet. So let's say if I say, oh, Abhinav, you feel like a brother, I love you. But in that love, I'm also thinking about myself. That is called personal involvement. Whereas when you love, but you are not in that picture, you're just giving, then it is impersonal love. And Master said, you can do that for even strangers. And that is one of my favorite practices. And I had 2 very beautiful experiences recently, which were very sweet. So I was at Prandya's city, Cincinnati, and where were you taking me in the morning? Oh, we were going for that walk, the whole family. So Pradnya and her sons were behind, Vasant and I were in the front, and we stopped at a petrol station. So here we are at a petrol station, and so I just, it's like a subconscious practice. You should pray for others. Like Dr. Lewis said, Master asked Dr. Lewis, do you pray for others? And Dr. Lewis said, sir, I'd like to think that I'm praying all the time. After years with Master, what else are you doing? And Master says, yes, but pray not to God, but in God. And that's just what a beautiful teaching for even an advanced disciple. He says, be in God and then pray. So that you're even closer. That confidence, the results are better. So it's a little bit of my practice just to, think of others, pray. And so we're sitting in the seat and we're talking to each other, and this lady who looks little Indian is like slowly moving towards our car, and very sweet. She's got a cleaning cloth, and I see her suddenly smiling out of the glass. So I smiled and I popped my head out. I said, are you from India? She said, yes. So I said, where from? She said, Gujarat. I said, Kem cho? She said, Majama chu. By this time, she left her cleaning and came here. So we started talking, and what do you do? And I said, and she's like, oh, how nice to see you all. I work over here from 6 a.m. to noon. And it's very lonely. I feel quite lonely over here. I said, oh, this large family stays right here. You should make friends, take Pradnya's phone number, and you can have, I said, she's been giving me very good Maharashtrian food. And if you're from Gujarat, she's from Maharashtra, you should eat at each other's place. And so they're like, yeah. And they started talking and taking each other's number. And then that lady sees Pradnya's younger son, Pranav. They start talking, and suddenly Pranav has this bulb go on. He said, "Aap Jill ki mummy ho? Are you Jill's mom?" And she said, "Yes, Jill is my son." He says, "He's my best friend." But they haven't kind of, met. Her working hours are such, and Pradnya works from 2 to 6. So by the time this lady would, and they were staying very close to each other, but the working hours for the last 1 year that Pradnya has been there and this lady has been working have been such that they've been kind of missing each other every day. But here we meet at the petrol station. But isn't that so sweet? You meet somebody and I just felt like, oh, Divine Mother. And she felt like a friend. She just felt like we've known each other for a long, long time. And this is, like Master said, like that chant is, rest in God, live in God, in His light, in His love, in His joy. The more we stay in that consciousness, even there are no strangers. That's a egoic definition. Another time I was going from Portland to Chico. It was a 14-hour journey by train. Thank you, Prisha. Prisha is my ticket mascot. She always books my tickets, and sometimes I reimburse her, sometimes I don't. And but it's very sweet that you booked that beautiful ticket. So I reached there, I booked my ticket and all. I sat there, and it was a 2-people seat, and I'm sitting there, and this young teenager, American, tall, fair teenager comes. He puts his bag. He says, "Are you from India?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Namaste." I said, "Oh, namaste." And he says, "Aap kaise hain?" I said, "Wow, that's really good. Your Hindi is very good." He says, "मैं थोड़ी हिंदी जानता हूँ. I know a little bit Hindi." I said, "That's not थोड़ी. How come you know so much? क्या मैं यहाँ बैठ सकता हूँ?" I said, "बैठिए, sit." 2.5 hours we spoke. He had to get off after that. 2.5 hours we spoke in Hindi. And he says, "I have just returned from Noida." He had signed up. Post 9/11, many NGOs started organizing high school students to go, especially to countries where Islam is predominant, and to experience the culture. What does it mean? What is the religion all about? What are other religions all about? What are other cultures about? And so this boy said, my parents suggested that. I signed up for it. And out of 18 countries where your ticket has to come out. And he said, my ticket came out for India, Noida. So he said, I was adopted by a school and a family in Noida. So I stayed with them, went to the school, and we had to speak only in Hindi. So his Hindi was so good. Now, as you can imagine, we discussed everything from spirituality to politics to Indian history and such. But isn't that beautiful? What are the chances that you meet somebody like that? And then he says, can you please send me a copy of the autobiography of a yogi? I want to learn more about this. I'm interested. I had known about this, but in India there are so many meditations. I don't know which one I should pick. So again and again you see that it is not, yes, the more blessed we are, the more we feel those blessings and we share that. In India you'll always see, whether it's Ganesha, Shiva, Parvati, anyone, one hand is always raised in blessing. And Master said it's because, or I don't know if Master said it, but I read this interpretation that as you receive, you must share. You have received something, now share it with others, because many times the ego likes to think, I am the end of matter, I am the end of things. You're not the end. It's flowing through you. You yourself are moving, flowing towards the light. So we are not an end in ourselves. So the more we allow these thoughts, prayers, feelings to come, the more we find brothers and sisters, no matter where we go. Another time I met a gangster, a guy who was a gangster earlier. I met him again in the train. And he says, where are you from? Are you from India? I said, yes. Your brother saved my life. I was like, I don't have a brother, I thought. I was like, how does he know me? I just said I'm from India. He said, your brother saved my life. I said, okay. He said, Dr. Gupta. Dr. Gupta has put a pacemaker in my heart. I am alive because of Dr. Gupta. He's also from India. As if Mr. Gupta and I are the only two people in India. We are brothers. But it was good. He had a sense of brotherhood. He said, Gupta is your brother, Your brother saved my life. So I said, yeah. Then he said, what do you do? I said, well, I used to be a doctor. He said, see, you guys make the best doctors, I'm telling you. So I said, yeah. I said, what about you? What do you do? He said, well, you used to be a doctor. I used to be a gangster in Los Angeles. I was like, interesting. I said, what do you do now? He said, I work for the government. So anyway, we had a nice conversation. And I said, so he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to California. I'm going to meet some people, participate in yoga and meditation activities. What about you? He said, I'm going to see my dad after 20 years. I said, 20 years? And then he told the whole story, what happened. He was in prison, this, that. And he started weeping. And he said, my stepmother wouldn't allow me to meet my dad. She said, oh, you're a gangster and you are after the money, and why do you want to meet him? And because he's about to die, you want his property. He said, I just want to meet my father. He said, I love my father. I want to meet my father. I'm going from the East Coast to the West Coast to meet my father. And he says, finally, my stepmother was convinced by my sincerity. And he says, now my father doesn't know. And we have planned a whole surprise for him. Isn't that sweet? Like Krishna says, even the worst of sinners comes quickly to me by meditating on me. And me does not mean Krishna as a personality. It means my aspects, my qualities. Swami once said, he says, gangsters, you have to say they have big hearts. Now, a big heart can go in many directions. But how many people have a small heart, And Swami says, get a big heart. Be magnanimous. Think of others. Pray for others. And he says that way you will find that you will feel so much joy. Anyway, very quickly to wrap up, because I'll have more satsangs in the coming days to share. But my journey started in Seattle, Ananda, Seattle, with Padma and Rimanji. Then I moved to Ananda, Portland, where I was with Surendraji, who had served for many years in Pune. His wife Tushtiji was diagnosed with cancer in Pune, in Aund, and then left her body in the US not long after that. And I thanked them, by the way, at SRW, personally also, but at SRW I thanked every American Guru Bhai who was watching for all that they have done for India. We are 20 years old in India. Now in November we will be. They are 55 years old. They have given us beautiful gems. We are all the same family. Some, I think Babaji plays this dice sometimes and he sprinkles us around the world, and some fall on this continent, some fall on that continent. So Prisha was like, I'm not happy. I was an Indian, I want to go back. And so Prisha is about to finish 20 years herself over here in India. And so these things, but I thanked them for each one of them who came. They gave their time, their skill. The teachers, to this day, they come financially. In the beginning, we take it for granted, but everything, a lot of things, where did it come from? Yes, Swami urged people, but people gave out of them. And it's not like Americans have money or Europeans. Think of Jayaji. He came at the age of 22 to Swami in this forest hermitage where he raised a family and always gave, always served. It's not like you can make too much money, in Ananda. But anyway, there's never less money also, because Master gives you just what's right for you. So anyway, I went in Portland. I thanked Surendraji, Tushtiji for their just beautiful, and Tushtiji's spirit and others. And then I went to Chico, then Ananda Village for Spiritual Renewal Week, which was very beautiful. If you haven't seen it, please do watch it. Jyotish and Deviji said it was the best ever. And they said actually of late it has been every year the best ever. And Jyotishji said that's how things should be. He says that is how Master said our meditations should be. They just keep getting better each time. So 18 beautiful talks from many different teachers. So that was SRW. And then there was Living Discipleship for 4 weeks. Then I went to Sacramento, Dharamdas Nirmalaji, who served so much in Pune, across India. They were directors for India. I thanked them both. All of them sent their love. Biraj and Lahari, who were also in Pune for many years, they sent their love. And then from there I went to Chicago, and then I saw my sisters. Then I went to Cincinnati, Pradnya's place. We are trying to see how we can do more activities. in the meditation group over there. And finally, then of course, I came to Chicago and took a flight back. It was almost 2 months, my longest trip ever outside of India. Now, I want to do two last things. First of all, I want to thank every one of you who has helped with this new place. And this thank again is coming from many, many, many Guru Bhais in the West. They're just like, Swami must be so happy. He must be so proud. This morning, Dhyanaji called me. We had a center leaders meeting in India. Other center leaders called. They were just like, this is so amazing, so nice what's happening. So each and every one of you, your prayers, your contributions, your seva, everything that you're doing day after day, nothing happens by itself. Swamiji once gave one of our senior acharyas a work, and after 4 days, Swami kept asking, how is it going? They're like, yes, I'm working on it, I'm working. But they were not really working, they were actually praying that God and Divine Mother do it. And Swami knew his people. And after 4 days, Swami looked this acharya very closely. He said, Divine Mother is not going to do it for you. You have to do this. And he was reminding that there is this, remember 25%? You remember that equation? You have to move the body. And the person said, oh, okay, yes. And they said the moment they started getting involved, the work got done. So the mind is sometimes like this, the ego, do I do it? Should I not? God can do it. Swami told me once, he says God has many plans, but he always waits for a willing instrument. If there are no instruments, there is no project. So I want to thank all of you online and everybody who is here. And finally, I want to share a dream that a very dear Guru Bhai in Chico shared. And this was, again, I stopped in Chico before I went to Ananda village. And again, Prisha had done my tickets for Chico. I reached Chico. And then she told me this beautiful dream. And she said, Aditya, many decades ago, I saw myself on this ship, which was going, like, it felt like any moment it's going to sink. And she was like, it was in turbulent waters. I couldn't see anything. Everything was dark. And a part of me she said, I was totally afraid, but a part of me wanted to get off the ship, but something was holding me, and I was following instructions on the ship. And the instructions were, lower the boat, pick that person from the water. We're going to put it, reach a shore, lower the boat. These people should get off on the shore. Then we're going to that island. We're picking. And she's like, all these instructions were coming. And she felt like getting off the ship, turbulent waters herself. And she said, who am I following? Where are these instructions coming from? And she turned back and she said she saw all the 5 masters. Christ, Babaji, Lahari Mahashaya, Sri Yukteswarji and Yogananda ji were on the ship and giving instructions. And I was thanking all Guru Bhais at Ananda village during SRW, where I shared this dream for the first time publicly, because 50 plus years ago, that is the place from where Dhyanaji, Jayaji, Devarshiji, Haridas Roma, you name it, the movement of Ananda started from that. And I said, you all are that ship. We are also there. We are doing our part. In time, we will do what we have to do. But I said, I want to thank all of you who sat in the ship and didn't just come and go, didn't get off the ship. Jayaji came and he's very much on the ship. Jyotishji says, I came. Swami said, I'm doing a project. Would you like to help me? He said, yes. He said, I said yes to a project on one Sunday afternoon. And he says, well, the project hasn't ended. That closeness to God, when we do that, we see that Divine Mother is like playing with us. That, oh Aditya, will you rely on your mother or will you rely on me? Will you do this or will you do that? Because for God, actually our projects don't matter so much. But Master says the only thing you can give to God is your love. Even meditation, it's not different from love. Why are you meditating? Meditation in the final analysis is communion with God. It stills the body, the heart, the breath to such a degree that we see God. as light, as joy, as the sound of Om. And when you see God, God is called Hari. He steals you. He is the power of attractiveness behind all things. So when we see God at the spiritual eye, He takes hold. And you are in love with Om. You are in love with the light. You are in love with bliss. You are in love, as somebody said, with love itself. And hence, it's not different from love. Meditation is an expression of love. I love you. Hence, I will spend time with you. Hence, I will spend longer, deeper meditations with you, because it is you're spending time with God. And then God says, okay, I was once given a deep experience right here in Bhosle Nagar. And then this very gentle voice said, and because I had 5 minutes to meditate, but it was very deep. And at the end of that, I was so engrossed, it said, now, don't you have a meeting? I do. So God knows that how much food you need, and now when is the time to go out and share with others. So let's keep that in mind. This life is of God, the body, the family, everything. It is not either or. It is a beautiful balance that I will stay in God, I will take my instructions from Him, and then I will share as I have to share, as I have been called to share. So once again, as we close, these beautiful 5 verses which it says will bring us toward true wisdom, which is the goal of all learning. Let's take the time in this week, because there are 20 of them, a week itself. We need a week to go through them. Let's take a minute of silence, inwardly thanking the masters, thanking Swamiji for the gift of the essence of the Bhagavad Gita, and most of all, thanking them for their love and their presence in our lives. Let's rub our hands together, share the blessings with all. Let's do an arati and a very quick blessing ceremony. Stand up, Bhavni. You do chant.